Hi, third grade mathematicians. It's Mrs. Moore here, and today I get to teach you our third geometry lesson. By the end of this lesson today, you will be able to identify parallelograms. You will also be able to describe the attributes or characteristics of parallelograms. As always, please start our lesson by getting out a notebook, some scratch paper, or your math packet so that you're able to participate on every slide with me. Okay, so as always, let's start by reviewing all of the wonderful things you learned about geometry yesterday and the day before. So, would you please look carefully at this shape? Draw this shape very carefully on your paper. Based on what you learned yesterday, what is the shape called? You're right, it's a square. On your paper, can you please label the sides and angles of this square and write down any other characteristics or attributes that you remember about squares? Wonderful. How are the sides and angles different? Perfect job. You remembered that the sides were any line segment with endpoints on a shape. So a side is any line segment in a polygon. And you know that the side changes direction and becomes a new side. You know an angle is formed when two sides come together, or the corner. We also learned yesterday about a very special type of angle called a right angle. And maybe you wrote down that a square has 4 right angles. You would be right. A right angle is that special corner where two perpendicular straight lines come together. And you know you can always check to see if an angle is a right angle by using the corner of a piece of paper. You also learned yesterday about polygons. You know a polygon is any closed shape with 3 or more angles. Boys and girls, I have a task for you. Would you please write down any of the polygons that you remember that we learned about yesterday? What are their names? And how many sides do they have? Pause the video and write down the different types of polygons that we learned about and their names. Who was able to get all of them? Excellent. I hope you remembered that a triangle is a polygon with 3 sides. Quadrilateral is a polygon with 4 sides. A pentagon is a polygon with 5 sides. How many sides does a hexagon have? You're right, a hexagon has 6 sides, and an octagon has 8 sides. So we're going to learn all about a specific type of polygon today, and it's the 4-sided polygon. What's the name of a polygon with 4 sides and 4 angles? Say it out loud. You're right, it's a quadrilateral. Boys and girls, on your paper, I would like for you to draw 2 different quadrilaterals and write down the attributes or characteristics that all quadrilaterals share. Wonderful job. You guys know so much about quadrilaterals already. So a quadrilateral is any 4-sided polygon. These were the ones that I drew. I wonder what you drew. Any 4-sided polygon is called a quadrilateral. You're going to use what you know about quadrilaterals to learn all about a very special type of quadrilateral today called a parallelogram. Say that with me. Parallelogram. Today, you're going to learn all about parallelograms. You're going to be able to identify shapes that are parallelograms. You're also going to be able to describe the attributes of parallelograms. So I'm going to teach you all about their attributes right now. so pay very close attention. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral. What's a quadrilateral? You're right, it's a four-sided polygon. To be a parallelogram, a shape has to have two pairs of parallel sides. And last time you learned that parallel sides are two sides that are going the same direction, that always stay that same distance apart. So to be a parallelogram, the opposite sides of the shape have to be parallel. The opposite sides also must be equal. So boys and girls, I know right away that this rhombus and this rectangle, they're both classified as parallelograms. And the reason for that is because they're quadrilaterals. They both have four sides. They also both have two pairs of parallel sides. I know that if this side is labeled A, then its opposite side, so the side on the opposite of the shape, which is C, they have to be parallel, which means facing the same direction and always staying the same distance apart. So A and C are parallel because you'll notice even if they continued on forever, they would always stay the same distance apart. They would always be parallel. B also has an opposite side that's parallel. Well, which side is parallel to B? Excellent, D is parallel. Look, they are always staying the same distance apart. Well, let's look at this rectangle. Which side is parallel to A? Exactly, C is parallel because it's going the exact same direction and it would always stay the same distance apart. That also means right away that the opposite sides are equal. So if A was 4 inches long, C would have to be 2 because the opposite sides are equal. They're the exact same length. Which side, let's highlight one. Which side, boys and girls, would be parallel to D? Exactly, B is parallel to D. So these are parallelograms because both have two pairs of parallel sides. Let's see if you can find some parallelograms. Well, parallelograms are four-sided shapes that have two pairs of parallel sides. And you know parallel always means that the two sides are the same distance apart and they're going the same direction. Why is this shape right here, which I labeled parallelogram? Pause the video and say out loud, why is the shape labeled parallelogram a parallelogram? Exactly right, because it has two pairs of parallel sides. A has a perfect parallel partner, C is going the exact same direction, and B has a parallel partner, well, D is parallel to B. You know that squares are also parallelograms. Let's test it out. Well, D has a parallel partner. Let's see. Here's side D. Which side is parallel to D? Is A? Well, no, it's not going that same direction. Is C? Nope, it's not. It's actually perpendicular. What about B? You're right. It is parallel because look, it's going the exact same direction. If these lines continued on forever, they would always stay the same distance apart. They would never get closer together. So D and B are parallel, and A and C are also parallel. Why isn't this trapezoid a parallelogram? You're exactly right. Because it has one pair of parallel sides, well, A and C are parallel. They would always stay the same distance apart. But D and B aren't parallel. Well, the way that I test is I continue the line, and if it stays the same distance apart, I know it's parallel. But if it gets closer together or farther apart, then the sides aren't parallel. Let's test it together. So here's side D. Okay, and here's side B. I know right away that side B is not going the same direction. Look, side B is going this way and side D is going this way. They actually would eventually come together or cross, which is called intersect. So for a shape to be a parallelogram, it has to have two pairs of parallel sides, and this shape only has one. So it is a quadrilateral, but it's not a parallelogram. Pause the video and explain why the shapes on the left side are parallelograms, but the shape on the right side is not. Exactly right, third graders, because to be a parallelogram, there needs to be two pairs of parallel sides, not just one. I have a fun task for you. We're going to look at different shapes and we're going to say, is it a parallelogram or is it not? We're going to identify parallelograms. Let's start with this rhombus. Is this shape a parallelogram? Well, let's review. To be a parallelogram, the quadrilateral needs to have two pairs of parallel sides. And the opposite sides have to be parallel and equal. Let's test it out. I'm going to grab my highlighter. So let's try this side. Let's start right here. So this side, does it have a parallel side that's opposite, that's going the exact same direction? Well, let's see. Okay, this side is not parallel. This opposite side is parallel. Okay, so far I know it has one pair of parallel sides. But to be a parallelogram, it has to have two pairs. So let's try this side. Okay, so this side I'm going to draw right here. Does it have an opposite side that's parallel? You're right, it does. So the reason that this rhombus is a parallelogram is because it has two pairs of parallel sides. These sides are parallel and these are. And the opposite sides are equal. Yes, if this was 10 inches, this would have to be 10 inches too. Wonderful job. Let's decide if this shape is a parallelogram. Before we decide, pause the video and tell me the attributes a shape must have to be a parallelogram. You're right, it has to be a quadrilateral. Is this shape a quadrilateral? Does it have four sides? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. So far, it has one of the attributes of a parallelogram. Does it have two pairs of parallel sides? Well, let's check. I'm going to highlight this side first. Oh goodness, I might have to oh, it fixed. Let's look at its opposite side. Are those two sides parallel? Yes. So it has one pair of parallel sides. Let's test the other sides to see if their opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so there's one side. Oh my goodness, I can already tell that these sides aren't parallel. The reason they're not parallel is because look, they'd actually be getting farther apart if they continued. They would not stay the exact same distance apart. They're not facing the same direction. Pause the video and tell me, why is this shape? Why is it not a parallelogram? Exactly right, because it only has one pair of parallel sides. The opposite sides over here, they're not parallel. They're actually getting farther apart, and parallel sides need to be the same direction, and they need to always stay the same distance apart. Wow, great listening. I have something super fun for us. So this is our secret sort. Look at all the shapes inside this rectangle right here. Do you see them? Pause the video and tell me the attributes that all of the shapes inside this special box have in common. You're right. They are all quadrilaterals. Why are they all quadrilaterals? They have four sides. What else do they have in common? Yes, all of the quadrilaterals in this box are parallelograms because they all have opposite sides that are parallel and the same length. So let's tap our secret rule to make sure that all of these are parallelograms. Yes, these shapes in the box are all parallelograms because they are quadrilaterals with opposite sides that are parallel. I'm going to have you pause the video one more time. And when you pause the video, I need for you to determine all of the remaining shapes up here. Look at them very carefully and determine, are there any other remaining shapes that could go in this parallelogram box because they're also parallelograms? So look at these very carefully and determine, are any of them parallelograms and could go in the parallelogram box? You are so right. This right here, this shape right here, is also a parallelogram. Is there another shape that is a parallelogram and could go in the parallelogram box? Absolutely. Wonderful job. I have one more thing to prepare you for your assignment today. You're going to decide which of these shapes are parallelograms and which ones aren't. You know, for a shape to be considered a parallelogram, it needs to have two pairs of parallel sides. Well, let's just go with the first one first. We're going to do two together, and I'm going to let you sort two by yourself. So if the shape is a parallelogram, because it has two pairs of parallel sides, we'll put it in the column labeled parallelogram. If it's not a parallelogram, because it doesn't have two pairs of parallel sides, we will put it in the column labeled not a parallelogram. Let's start with this shape. Okay, so let's see, does it have two pairs of parallel sides? So there's one side. Is its opposite side parallel? Yes, it's facing the exact same direction. It has one pair. Let's check the other side. Okay, here's one. Is its opposite side parallel? Absolutely, third graders. Its opposite side is facing the same direction. Which side would I put it in? Wonderful. It is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. Let's look at this one. What do you notice right away? Yes, it's a triangle. So does it have four sides? Is it a quadrilateral? No, so automatically it can't be a parallelogram, but let's see. Does it even have opposite sides? No, there are no opposite parallel sides, so it's not a parallelogram. You, third graders, sort these ones. Exactly. This rectangle is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. This pentagon, it's not even a quadrilateral. It has one pair of parallel sides, but these sides are not parallel, and there's more than four of them. You guys are so ready now to do your assignment for the day. Here's your assignment. You're going to look at various shapes, and you're going to decide whether each shape is a parallelogram. Why don't you use your parallelogram resource? Have it out next to you so that you're able to use it to guide your thinking. I completed the first one for you. So this first shape, well, let's see. Is it a quadrilateral? Yes, because it has four sides. Does it have two pairs of parallel sides? Is it a parallelogram? Well, these two sides are parallel. Are these two sides parallel? No, they would intersect. They're getting closer together. So I had to put my X in the no column, and I said this shape is not a parallelogram because it only has one pair of parallel sides. Parallelograms are shapes with two pairs of parallel sides. Let's start this one together. So, is it a parallelogram? Well, let's start. Does it have four sides? Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does it have two pairs of opposite parallel sides? Okay, so here's one side. Is its opposite side parallel? Yes. Let's test this one. Are there opposite parallel sides? Yes. So for this one, I would mark that it is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel sides. Wonderful job. You guys will complete this assignment on your own and turn it in to me. Check your work, please, and make sure that you're taking your time. Thank you, boys and girls. I cannot wait to see your work today.